Thanks, Bill. Good to see everybody. Get reminded you're at LSU relatively this week, and this many of you show up in August to talk about LSU baseball. I'm very grateful for that. And on that note, good luck to Coach Kelly. I know that and them a great 2025 season. Great to be back. Playing as late as you possibly can summer, and then start a couple updates. Championship team in 2020. We're going to do the ring ceremony celebration, okay, in conjunction with the, and then that's sweet. So I'm excited. I know our players that, and again, that accomplished, but how it went. So some things an honor in those guys as they certainly deserve. Moving forward, fall 2025 preparing, and we have starting those of skill instruction, player development period. We'll take that from now, October 8th. That 45-day in that November 6th fall game against Samford, and like we did last year, leave the 14 reboot that. At the end of that, that'll wrap up our fall, and then player meetings, December. Some things of note, we're new players, so just about excited about all the buckets of where those guys came from. I think we returned just about that was on the 2025 postseason playoff roster, with the exception of one. Excited to have a really good foundation of players know what operating at the highest possible level is. Operating at the highest possible. When you talk about some high school, we brought in 9, which seems to be about that can make immediate next few years. And when you move on, and $55 million in signing bonuses this few years. The transfer portal, a couple of just kind of where the players are coming from. That's really all that matters, as boring as that sounds, and we got a lot to do. To that, good start this week, good into strength and conditioning with Chris Martin. Of assessment stuff this week to get off to the right track with players, and our deal and our announce in the coming week. Jump the gun on that. Questions about it, but got a great schedule and a lot at home again, and getting this thing started.
Jay, you talked about the roster makeup and how it kind of a couple of years. I guess, what did you learn? What did you and did you feel like it paid with your different buckets?
Yeah, I think the is we have far more returning players a year ago. I think that probably coincides with winning a national championship. Nobody really wants to leave, and that's a good thing. And I certainly told them return from Omaha that everybody from that day come back on this year's team. Did come back, so that was great. And then the high school thing, and so you're going to run some Major League Baseball draft and class, and that's that can do that. 9, can be really good players here. Right at that 9, we had 10, 7. Were on the roster, so I like that. A couple needs, and then is grabbing people out of the portal. I think we've probably done one of the best jobs, developing players from high program and blending what we needs again, just like there was a of how the draft and last 3 years without having players. And if guys want to be pro players, 32 in 3 years, $10 are good numbers.
Some of the returners, the championship roster in the end of the season, just talk of second-year players that are coming back and to what y'all want to do.
They were very instrumental in us, winning the national championship. Obviously, the two that obviously, the legendary in the regional final win in Omaha against UCLA, game 1 against Arkansas. All their, physical ability, mental makeup to forward, which, if I was going to bet on anybody, Derek had about as good a freshman player I've seen positively contributing to a team winning at the highest level, which last year's team did, and very motivated player and taking evolution and game and are clear on what that is and is players for us, and so feel really good about Edie, was basically our Saturdays in that schedule, and really in the thick of that grouping of teams. I think it was like Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, South Carolina tournament, and he did a great job. And we only lost one game that Anthony pitched 12, so and defensively great about those 3 pitchers. Other 3 pitchers, Maverick Rizzi, freshman in appearance 4 or 5 outings in Cape Cod League this summer. Expect a step forward from him, in terms of how he's went 7. I think when you have as many expectations as himself, like pitch in the regionals, got to pitch for Williams, huge, regionals, the highest leverage situations, got us 3 really good innings in Omaha. And he's headed, we had some really specific, John Pearson got a couple of bats. And if he wasn't on the team, that he was more playing time as a freshman. Excited about those guys, very proud of them. Very pointed summers, for them in terms of what they were. Feel good about where they're at.
You're heading into this season with a pretty old team. You have a 7th-year senior, you have a few 5th-year seniors. Much of that was just a product of what happened in the draft. Those freshman signees who are.
Yeah. And good observation. It was a very new team last year. It was not a young. It's similar, more returners than we did from last year. You need what you need to compete, and if recruiting, our league's going to let you know you fell behind. How the draft was kind of we could weather that. For all of our players that went thing, and sometimes you win a championship, and happy for all of them. I want to put the focus on the guys that decided to come here. Marcos, Omar, Ethan, Reagan, Ricken, that whole group. But there was a little bit of an adjustment, really not knowing where the roster was and what we would need. I thought we did a pretty good job. I don't want to say we intend, because I like where we're at and how it's thought out, but covered from what that was. And professional baseball throwing around $2 million like it's candy, we recovered pretty well, and I'm.
Jay, do you full go in fall camp and obviously being ready for next season?
Yeah, the question, and do I expect them full go? Devin time, and then once he had kind of done what he'd done from a games perspective, he went and trained with William and Cooper. Plan that we had for those 3 guys, so I do expect right from the start for what I want him to do to catch up on last year, and Phil Gavin, he's doing great playing catch. I think it's maybe a little bit different where we're continually building him up. Throw in the fall, it may not of the fall, but middle of the fall, and then continue it as we ramp into the season. I'm not worried about game experience, competitiveness, continually advance. And again, I talk about him all the time. I think it flies under the radar. He is one of the heroes of this place and our success. That's our athletic. And he's in a great spot. It's fun to see a smile, moving around and playing catch. But I feel like we'll pitch this fall. The timing that we want to see. My guess would be if he pitches, it will be at the back half of the.
Coach, how important is it to your team, of your team, that you return your
very much, and could do whatever they want to do. Have the best. Obviously, turned down the job at Duke. That opportunity, and decided to do that, and is a big part of, obviously in recruiting and then on the field as well. Coach Yeski have talked about all summer. I mean, just from performance, if you're just looking at winning and those types. Josh Simpson is 2 for 2 on national championships, and being here. So we'll try to keep him for a few more years. He always lets me know for those, so he's, been with me very thankful for those guys. We recently added Bridgman to our staff. 3 years, he played for me at Nevada. Was drafted by, I think it was Tampa Bay. Was coached at baseball guy, and exactly. I want to round our players. It's my intent to bring in Nick McCleary, another one of my former players, just released from professional baseball, player development roles as well, with us here probably within the next couple weeks. And again, another pro player, exactly to operate. I told Steven I'm bringing in my entire career. Steven, I guess, has him because we won the national with Nick, but guys with us as well.
What do you see in the Cade? What do you see ranks there? Do you think Cade can take that leap? Really push
Yeah, it's
him?
pretty simple. Like, we have 3 catchers. We have Cade, we have Omar Cerna, freshman, and then Eddie Yemen returned. And they're going to get all the reps all the time. Kind of how we'll do it. Scrimmages, we typically stay with that 3 days a week scrimmage. One of them will catch a full game every week. The other 2 will split it. I think offensive production potential, which I'm always maintaining. Defensively, I thought Luis took a big step forward offensively last year when we started, when it was 2-2, throughout the week. And you could see something like that, but players and about the development that Cade had, last year. Omar in here, and happy to have Eddie back, and he went up to the Cape Cod too. So just excited. I don't, we're long ways away from, out or in drawing any conclusions from that. I feel about position as you can. Probably the 2 best high school catchers in the country. Gone to college, actually.
Pretty early into having him impact that he was going to where you wanted to go. I'm curious if there's anybody in this recent grouping of guys that you signed, whether it's portal or
Yeah,
having
I
that.
What we have on the mound, I think there's a number of guys that can contribute. I talked and I guess trees than any human being alive, like nations, and those types of things. And we stopped doing that last year because I want for our team and let some things play. We only have 18 positions. Excited about and we'll really be able to attack needed to improve for certain players. But yeah, I'm certainly excited about the players that we brought. I guess from the portal, Braden Simpson had a tremendous season last year at High Point. Zach York from Grand Canyon, Seth Dardar, Kansas State, Trent Caraway, Oregon State. All those guys, Kansas State was in the regional, Oregon State was in the College World Series. Grand Canyon's been a winning, program, and Braden had a real impressive season last year at High Point, who was an NCAA tournament team the year before, I believe. So I'm excited about those guys. And on the pitching side, we needed to add some left-handed pitching. We were able to do that. Ethan from the junior college ranks, Ryler, Santi, and Danny. So we have some good balance of left and right-handed pitching. Cooper Moore, obviously I think he was some sort of all Big 12 pitcher last year at Kansas, and I think he's very confident, has good pitchability, and can add. And then when you're looking at, 9 returning pitchers too, just want to kind of let's get them all as good as we can, and then kind of, it's just not the meeting to talk about where somebody's going to fit yet. So.
Coach, when you look at your position player group, everyone's draft eligible except for Cade Arambidi and John Pearson. Is that when you were constructing this roster, was that kind of in the back of your head to where there's a decent chance you're gonna have to reload a lot, if not all of it, come next season? Like where was that? Was that even part of your thought process?
Well, Cerna's not draft eligible. Mason Braun's not draft eligible. Ethan Claus isn't draft eligible. I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. William Patrick, Jack Ruckert. You don't always have control over those things. Some guys made a decision that they thought playing for the Chicago White Sox is, what they wanted to do. Fly up there and play the White Sox if they'd like to. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about that because I know the quality of what those guys are. Cade and Omar, those are staple, players. Mason Braun is one of the best hitters, in my opinion, that decided to go to college. So I'm excited about building around those guys. William Patrick, 6'3" runner, jump out of the gym, was a great football player. Needs baseball development time. He needs 1 billion at bats this fall, needs a season, needs good summer ball, and I think he can be a great player. Jack Ruckert's very versatile in the infield, and I understand the nature of that, and yeah, it did turn out that way a little bit, and I think we've shown a good aptitude to develop players and then reload as we need to. And so, yeah, I guess, we got a really good 26 class. What a great opportunity for them to be the guys that say, I'd rather play at LSU than sign for $1.5 million. What a great opportunity for the best players in the transfer portal next year. So I'm going to focus on kind of who we have, and it's just part of it. I want to develop guys for professional baseball, but what does Bill Belichick say? They're trying to be the 31st NFL team. Did I hear that somewhere? All right, so we're the 31st Major League Baseball team. Let's go.
Coach, Stanfield, Cowan, and Reeves, 3 guys that were kind of in that gray area of could have gone pro but decided to come back.
Thank you.
What was your pitch to them and why they should return if it came down to a decision, and how does it impact the team?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a pitch. It's conversations. And, I'm pretty straightforward, and sometimes, it may seem like a pitch because I have the LSU on my chest. They have the talent that could help our team be better. But, my vision when I came here of what I want this to be is, what we've done on the field, 150 wins and 2 national championships in the last 3 years, while helping players achieve their dream of moving on to Major League Baseball, 32. So I can't be just trying to, hoard everybody back. Cade Anderson, of all the guys, probably would have been the guy that would have loved to or wanted to come back. And it's hey, man, no. It's not how this thing's going to go, Not that we even needed to have that conversation, but, you have to look at what's best for the player. And I think it's very interesting. There's a lot of talk of shrinking the draft, contracting the minor leagues, which means there's less opportunities. So I actually shook all of those three guys' hands and congratulated them that what they did was lengthen their baseball career, because there's guys that are getting released that were just drafted, like 2 years ago, because they're Major League Baseball is trying to use college baseball more as like a training ground and not spend money, on player development in the minor leagues. So all three of them could have signed. All three of them had opportunities to sign and decided to do this. And I'm really glad that they did. And I mean, I talked on and on and on about that transfer group last year, specifically with Chris, specifically with Zach, obviously with Danny, with Luis. Like, we just hit on the right fit for that team and the character, and so I'm happy to have those guys back. It does matter, and the rest of them, it was probably good. It was their time, So yeah, I'm really happy they're back. I don't think it was much of a sell as it might sound or seem, as what was right for them. And I think probably getting your education finished in the society we live in today is probably more important than ever. So they'll get to do that, and they go out and do what they did last year, just from an individual standpoint. And we continue to have success. They'll be remembered here, and that's pretty cool. So.
Kind of sticking with that theme of good problems to have. What does Chris coming back do for your outfield?
Well, I think it's probably the best defensive outfield you could ever ask for. I think they proved that time and time again last year. Last year's team broke the LSU record for fielding percentage, which is awesome. Those three were a big part of that. So you love having that experience. I hear my colleagues talk about, and they're right, like you have to be older to have a chance to win and be successful. And so in that position, you feel great about that. So excited to have those three guys back out there and keep us experienced. Like they've been through it, like the training, the bunting, the base running, the high leverage games. We won a game, I think a 4-3 game against Alabama last year, and I think Chris had 4 hits. Derek was all over it every game, and Jake is, in my opinion, was one of our best players on last year's team. So very, very excited about that position group. And then the guys right behind them or, out there with them are really talented too. We just got to get some time underneath them.
Pitching-wise, you guys are in as good of a spot as you could ask for, despite losing your top 2 starters. You said on a podcast recently that you guys may even have more guys who have starter traits than you had last season. What could you sort of expand on that, and what did you sort of mean by it when you said that?
Yeah, good question. So you actually listen to that stuff? That's all right. Sometimes I worried when I do interviews with any of but again, it's LSU baseball. Love it. No, I think, going back to, Cade and Anthony, can't get more than that from a production standpoint. I think we won. It was either however many starts Cade had, 17 or 19 or 20. We won all but 2 of them. I mean, that's about as good as you can get, and he's pitching into the 7th inning every time. And Anthony, I think, I don't know when it started, but from Auburn on, maybe we only lost 1 game, or maybe that was the last. Yeah, from Auburn on, we only lost 1 game that Anthony had started, and those guys were getting deep into the 7th inning. So those 2 are, great seasons and really performed at a level that allowed us to do that. I think maybe what I meant was going into last year, and Glenn kind of brought up the point, you knew Anthony would be really important. His development would be really important for that team to have the success that it did. This year, I don't know that I would point to anybody and go hey, I know that somebody's going to do it. Cade did. That's unfair to put on anybody, just as it would have been unfair to say, hey, this guy's going to do what Paul Skeens did. That's not really fair. I think maybe what I mean is if you look down the pitching staff, maybe there's more guys with starter type arsenals, 3 to 4 pitches that can get through a lineup, 2 to 3 times. Those guys were exceptional, at doing. And maybe it's not 7 innings because it's not, 4+ pitches, but maybe it's 5. And then you go to another one of those guys and they can get you some length, and then you have some big arms at the end of the game to finish it out. And, I'm not afraid to do the pitching differently, but I'll sign up for Friday and Saturday production like we had last year every year. But yeah, Kaysen, he started 3 SEC games. He went 6 innings in a regional final, 4 2/3 in Omaha. William Schmidt was 7-0. Cooper Moore had great success. Zach, obviously, winning start in Omaha against the best team in the country. Marcos Paz, really, really good. And Reagan Ricken has a huge arm, a great athlete. He was a quarterback in high school too. And, I've had pretty good luck with guys that once they drop football and just focus on baseball, they turn into great, great players. And so he and William Patrick, I mentioned, are the candidates for that. Like, they were pretty stud football players. So, and I'm leaving like a number of people out as I'm kind of talking through this. Santi Garcia, Danny Lackenmeyer. When we played them last year, he showed 3 really good pitches. The only reason we won that North Dakota State game is because they took him out of the game. So I'm pretty excited on getting to fall weekends and let guys go 2 innings, then maybe build up to 3 innings and see what they can do. And I'm not intentionally leaving anybody out, or don't read anything into it, because everything is up for grabs and wide open.
Yeah, along those lines, you were placed in 3 of the 4 spots in the infield. And I know last, preseason, you guys kind of moved people around. Braswell played a little second, Dickinson was at third, and some of the guys coming back have played a couple different positions, and the guys are bringing in same deal. How do you kind of approach that, picking final destinations or trying guys out at different spots?
Yeah, it's a long ways away. It's I knew somebody would ask that. I feel great about Steven, obviously. I think at shortstop, figuring out who the next guy is going to be there, is important. A couple good freshmen with Ethan Claus and Jack Ruckert. We'll spend time with them on the left side of the infield, because I know they can play second base, or even third at a high level. But that's going to be important. I don't know too many teams in the country that have a great backup shortstop. So we need to get those guys ready. For that. Obviously the 3 transfer guys with Seth, Braden, and Trent. They have a little bit of versatility, across the board between second base and third base. John, we're going to give him reps, obviously, at third, at second, and at first. Zach is a first baseman. Mason Braun is, I think he ultimately will be a professional baseball player in the outfield, but he's really good around the bag at first base, too. So I think that's everybody. So it'll be great. We got a lot of ground balls to take. So I texted all of them about a month ago and just make sure the conditioning is right, because it's going to be humid, and we're going for it, because we have a lot of teaching to do, a lot of fundamental improvement to do, and then kind of getting to the sorting out phase. And for the next month and a half, I just want them to develop. We're not in any phase of okay, this guy's going to go here, this guy's going to go here. It's get all of them as good as you can. We'll move guys around a lot, in those 7 weeks of scrimmages, and try to figure that part out.
A couple if you can, and you don't have to go super long on them, but just kept seeing John's name on Twitter over summer ball. Did he have as good a summer ball as everybody was talking about?
Yeah, I think it was a 2-phase type thing. He needed some at-bats, and that's happened to Ethan Fry, who got $1 million in the draft this year. He didn't start as a freshman, so that's pretty cool. So Ethan, we sent him to the exact same place as a freshman, and part of his development. So yeah, John went to lacrosse loggers. That's one of our absolute. That's where we send guys like him, and he did really, really well. There's another phase of his development that needs to take place if he's going to make a step forward and be an everyday player, which is his physical conditioning. So we actually had him go for about a month, and then return right around August 1st and get a head start with Chris and developing his body to play lower, move better, which will open up, can you play 3 different positions instead of maybe just 1 or 2? So we'll see. But he looks great physically. Mindset's great. No surprise to anybody. And he can really hit, and I think it's a guy like had he been at 280 of the 300 programs, would have had 250 at bats as a freshman. So I'm excited to see him this fall.
We got Joe Mack here. So just looking at your roster, I don't remember 3 Catholic guys on a team. What is Brad doing well over there to prepare these kids?
Yeah, really, really great program. Out west, you would always see their name, like in the national rankings. And then I remember going over there when William was a senior, sitting in the middle of like 80 scouts. And obviously I was impressed with him and kind of wanted to see, do we have any chance of getting this guy to school? So obviously was watching that every pitch, but they have talented players. A lot of good players want to go there, but was super impressed with just how they operated. Like it was a very like college baseball like operation. And so what happens then is guys show up at a place like this and they send guys to other places as well. You can just tell in how they're moving and going about their business. Like I'll use, Jack as an example. Rolled right in here and working hard with Chris Martin, out working on his own, taking BP, ground balls. You could see it like just showing up, kind of knowing what to do. Daniel, same thing, and played at a really good junior college at McLennan in Texas after playing for him. So, he's going to be a guy that I think will acclimate to all the things that we do really, really well. So I'd say preparing, they prepare players well for this jump, and it's a great school. So I think going to college it's not as steep a ramp, So big fan here for sure.
Outside of Gavin and Devin working their way back, is there any other injuries that with you guys heading into fall?
Yeah, Ryler Smart, he missed last year because of Tommy John surgery, so he is on his way back. I want to say he's 14 months post Tommy John, maybe 15 or 16. So he's on his way back. Marcos Paz had it in July 1 of 24. So he's pretty close to 14 months. So I think he's going to be a star, maybe the star here at some point. So you'll see us bring him along kind of the way that we did Cade, as a freshman. Everybody else might be at 2 innings. He might be at 1 inning. I think Ryler's okay to pitch, but there's some strength things like he needs to do. You might see us at 1. You might see us start a couple guys a little later just because we want the flow to work out correctly and not want to stop them once they get going. So I wouldn't read too much into who's pitching or not pitching, early. Like there's a plan for all of them. The goal is obviously to have them opening day of the season and strong. So
Coach,
if I'm missing any, I'm not trying to hide anything. That's off the top of my head. That's the most significant ones.
You talked about Danny when he was at North Dakota State. Seth's another guy you saw in person last year in Frisco. When
He killed us.
Yeah, I was going to ask, just what do you remember about playing against him, and what does he bring to this team?
Well, at first, I don't look at where the players are from on the roster, but we scout them, so I know who he is. I know he was their best hitter, and he hit a homer into that little waterfall thing in right field. I was like, because nobody was doing anything off Cade. That was one of those he's rolling, and it's man, that's a pretty good swing. And then he hits the double to left center off of Kaysen. Left-handed hitters did not hit last year, and we have to execute a perfect relay from Josh to Steven, catch and tag Luis to get the game to extra innings to win. That's 2 pretty good pitchers to put pretty good swings on, and he went on and had a really good year, and he went in the portal, which the day he did it was 2 days maybe before the Super Regional. I didn't even know, and I'm actually looking through West Virginia's schedule, and like maybe who had a little bit of success because they won the Big 12, kind of dominated the season. And I just called Pete Hughes, who's a friend of mine, the coach at Kansas State, and he goes, "Let me guess, you want to talk about Darter?" I was like, "No, I just want to know how to beat West Virginia." And then I'm like, "Well, I guess since you mentioned it, like," but yeah, it's I'm excited about him. You know, there's guys in the league, and certainly guys we've had that have a similar background to him that have come in and been successful. Very cerebral player. You know, very excited to come here. You know, one of those guys that's from close by and probably was his first choice and ultimate dream, but took him years to develop into being the player that he is and ready to help contribute. And I think he will. And I'm really excited he's here.
Kaysen had about as dominant a freshman season as you could possibly hope for. Just what's the development like for him here in year two? Is it more pitch development? Is it adding stuff? Like what is it that you really want to see from him this offseason?
Yeah, I think we asked a lot out of him. I think he threw 58 innings, if I remember correctly. It might as well have been 100, and the reason I say that is because there's only one inning that I remember. Well, there was three. So we were way ahead opening day, and I wanted to get him in and get the first one out of the way. And then he hadn't pitched in like a week, so we threw him when we were way up against Xavier. And other than that, so that's 3 innings, so 55 innings, the game was on the line when he was pitching. And so as high leverage as you can get, it's all there, the athlete, the arm speed, the makeup, the mechanics, the toughness. And so it's just, you know, obviously wanting him to transition from what he did last year to a full-time, you know, starter, weekend starter, if you will, navigating the lineup 3 times. And some of that's conditioning, you know, the body is in shape. So in the 5th, the 6th, you're as quality as you were in the 1st. I think he's the athlete and has the physical condition to be able to do that. So that you start there. And then I think all the pitches that are necessary to do that are there. You know, it's kind of letting Coach Yeski do his thing and Jamie do his thing to help put him in the right spot.
How often in your career have you dipped into Division II to recruit a guy, and what was it about Dax that you felt comfortable enough that he could come in and be a contributor for you guys?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if we've had one here yet. I have done it before, but I don't think we've had one here. So the first thing was portal, and then I got a very interesting text from his head coach at Angelo State, who I know is a really, really good baseball guy. So that caught my attention. And then I knew his name, and then one of the reasons I brought Josh Simpson back is he's so connected in Texas, you know, with being the Texas scout for the Rangers. And I mean, he kind of perked up immediately. And it was like 3 days before the draft when this like recruitment took place, and you could feel the winds blowing. Like, you know, this isn't going to go good. There's just too much money out there. It's not going to go good for these high school players, for us. And so I literally just jumped on the phone, and we had aggressively recruited him and committed him. Watching, you know, hopped on Synergy and True Media and talked to his coach, talked to scouts in the area, people that had seen him. There was also a thought he was going to go in the draft. You know what I mean? Like, and so you had to kind of wait to weather the storm there. But he's a really good athlete, shortstop by trade that has become a pitcher. That's worked out for a few guys. You know, one of my friends, Trevor Hoffman, turned out okay for him. You know, but I watched him play catch yesterday, and he moves like a guy that was a good shortstop that became a pitcher. And I love talking to him because he is like 30 years old, you know, and he sounds like it. And it's pretty cool.
This might be the last one. After anyone else, after John, you all good? I'm going to go with John and Coach here.
So, Coach, after the national championship, heading into a new season, it's kind of like 23 into 24. And some people think that when you're playing deep into the tournament, it could be a disadvantage in terms of putting your team next year together, you know, with the portal opening while you're trying to win a national championship. Do you learn anything, or have you learned anything from that past experience after 23 going into 24 that you can use this year, if that makes sense.
That's a really good question. I think it's ever changing. I thought we actually did a really good job while we were in Omaha in 23. Luke Holman, we didn't get him during that time, but we were laying the groundwork, to get him. Gage Jump, I thought we did a really good job there. This year, it's an interesting thing about the transfer portal. Like, one thing you can't control, or we can't control, is the inventory, if you will. It's a bad word because we're talking about human beings, of players. And so we also have a little bit more returning this time than we did last time. I mean, that was Tommy, Josh had played, Hayden had got hot in the tournament. But other than that, all those guys left to professional baseball. Paul, Ty Floyd, Riley Cooper, those, we lost a lot. And so this time it did feel good to have a few of those pieces you knew were going to be back. Derek, Steven, Jake, getting Chris back, Zach back, Kaysen was coming back. So it also changed kind of what we needed to do a little bit. I'll be honest, like, I was locked in on Omaha. I was really happy we beat Arkansas in the first game, so we didn't have to play on Thursday. Because I did wake up on Thursday morning in that little lake by our hotel. I walked like 17 laps around it and was on the phone the entire time. And we got a few of these guys, and we didn't get a couple guys. And that's okay. It's not for everybody, but that is what it is. I think, maybe a more relevant question is, what do you do from this point forward? And I still think there's a balance. Like, you have to let those guys that were a part of that at the appropriate times celebrate what they accomplished, because it doesn't just happen, even though we have 2 in the last 3 years. But they're excited to move forward too. They're really excited to move forward. I love how they're operating, and I think what you have to an advantage is you have a few guys, real key players that played for us in 24 and played for us in 25, that maybe saw differences in the team and, want to be on the right side of that. And I feel like we were off to a good start. I had a freshman player's dad, I'm only sharing this because these are the things that get you excited as a coach, call me like August 12th. Summer school had just ended, and just said, hey, I just want to say thank you. My son just talked about how great Kaysen Evans and Jake Brown and Stephen Milam were while he was out there for summer. And so, good start, to the things that we need to do to be transitioning to this year really well.
Just quickly, how's Dax eligible to play this season? Just like what is there something with Division II in the rules? Like, I was trying to figure
There's
that
something,
out.
and basically we kicked it over to compliance, and they reviewed it thoroughly and gave us the green light, so we did not hesitate. I'm not going to play Steve Lautz or Blair Napolitano. You don't know their names. That's our compliance office. But we went through it thoroughly. They went through it thoroughly and gave us the thumbs up. All right, thanks.